Hi guys, it's Cody and welcome back to my channel. I am super excited to finally show you guys this. This is how I created my cosplay of Suga from BTS. So first up with this cosplay was the wig. I purchased this undercut style wig from Arta Wigs, and while they still do carry this style in stock, unfortunately they no longer carry this color. To style the wig, I first heated up sections of the hair using my flat iron and then twirling it into pin curls. Once the wig cooled down, I then carefully took out the pin curls, brushed it a bit to make it look more natural, and then set the whole thing with hairspray. Next up was the belt. This is actually an old belt that my mom gave to me. Thanks, Mom! And I just went ahead and covered the entire buckle and the loop pieces using E6000 and a whole lot of shimmery rhinestones. After that came the pants. These are my old work pants, and as you can kind of tell, they've been through a lot of wear and tear. So I did some minor patchwork just to close up all the holes, and then I sewed the two side slits in the pants shut. For the shoes, I decided to go ahead and create a detachable trim, so I bought this chain trim from Joanne Fabrics as well as black elastic. I then measured out how much chain I wanted to go around the shoe, and the good thing about this trim is that it actually breaks apart really easily. After that, I just looped a piece of elastic around the end links and then sewed it down. Then to prevent the chains from breaking off the elastic, I went ahead and sealed the ends with contact cement. All I had to do now was slip the chain onto my shoes, and the shoes were done! Next came the white shirt. I originally was gonna build this shirt from scratch, but I was a little too tired from AX, so I just grabbed the one from my closet. After that, I went ahead and did a couple bit of seam ripping, first on the collar and then a little down the button placket. The reason why I did this is because I'm going to be adding a ruffle down the front. The ruffles themselves I cut out from some leftover white cotton. I first went ahead and hemmed the straight side and then used a gathering stitch to gather the curvy side into ruffles. The ruffles were then pinned into place and then sewn down using a top stitch. I then tucked the raw edges back into the collar and then sewed the collar back into place. And that's how I made the undershirt. Now for the main event, the jacket. I started with my good old Simplicity 2341, and the only major modifications I did to it were to sharpen the corners on the collar and then reduce the fullness in the side front panels. Normally at this step, I would put together a mock-up using muslin, but because I've worked with this pattern so much, I just decided to use the lining portion as my muslin. This was mainly to check the fit, as well as make any alterations needed. The main fabric itself was good old trusty black gabardine, and then to add a little bit more shimmer, I got this sheer shimmery fabric. Before I sewed all the pieces together, I first pinned the overlay onto the main fabric and then hand basted them both together. After that, I began sewing the jacket all the way up to the sleeve head, and before I closed at the sleeve, I took some gold trim, ironed it in half, and then pinned and sewed it onto the sleeve. After I finished sewing up the sleeve, I took this very sparkly gold rhinestone trim. Normally you can actually iron this directly onto the fabric, but because of the nature of the fabric, I decided to first tack it down with fabric glue and then reinforced it using a slip stitch. I added in some shoulder pads to the inside of the jacket to make my shoulders look a little bit more masculine. And then I attached the lining to the main jacket and added the collar. After that, I attached some of the remaining gold trim to the front of this jacket as well as around the collar. While I was top stitching this trim down, I made sure that the gold thread would be on the top, but the bobbin would be black thread to blend into the lining. Add a little more glitz, I then cut apart the rhinestone trim I used earlier, and same thing as the sleeves, I first glued it down to keep it in place and then slip stitch it to secure it further. Next, I went ahead and sewed down all the buttons. In the original jacket, there are 13 buttons on each side, but because I'm much shorter than Suga, I cut it down to 9. Now for this really complicated loop pattern. I first went ahead and pulled up a reference photo in Photoshop and then very roughly marked out where all the loops go. I then transferred that diagram onto the jacket itself, first by marking it with pins and then later a white base stitch. Now it's time to tackle the loops itself. Starting with the portion in green, I took this gold cord and then using my cardboard cutting board as a base, I began pushing pins into it to mark it in place and then using a slip stitch to secure it down. After that, I basically just repeated the process again on the outer loops marked in red. Through the magic of editing, it looks like this went by super quick, but believe me when I say it took forever. On top of all of that, my cutout board is now completely covered in holes and half of my pins are bent out of shape. Once all the cords were sewn into place, I went ahead and cut out all the basting threads. The final step on this jacket was making the epaulets. The base I used was a 5mm craft foam, and originally I wanted to cover it in fabric, but the end result looked a little too janky for my taste. So in the end, I changed plans and just painted it instead. For the trim, I combined 2 fringe trims, and then I went ahead and glued it on using contact cement. I then glued on some gold trim on the top and then used contact cement to glue it directly onto the jacket. And with that, my Suga cosplay was finally done. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. And if you have any questions on how I made this outfit, or you just want to tell me your BTS bias, leave it in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to see more cosplay stuff from me, or if you want to see me dance, please check out my dance channel. Until next time, bye guys!